My fellow Guyanese, a year ago today, we, the people of Guyana, celebrated the recovery of our democratic rights. With the support of every well-thinking nation in the world, we stopped a force determined to steal the March general and regional elections. And we declare that never again shall we countenance in our country any attempt to deny the popular will of the people. It was an historic moment in our nation's life. We, the people, decided that the history of rigged and stolen elections which we suffered in the past would not be tolerated then or at any time in the future. We established with resolve that Guyana and the Guyanese people are committed to democracy and democratic principles, including respect for the decision of the majority. The PPP Civic was declared the winner of the elections, and I, as its candidate, was cloaked with the responsibility of the presidency of our beloved country. That victory was ours as a people longing for peace, progress, and prosperity. It was a triumph for democracy, the rule of law, and for one Guyana. On this first anniversary of that momentous Guyanese accomplishment, I salute all who stood firm in our efforts to defeat the assault on our institutions and our Constitution. And I recall amongst those Guyanese were persons who had supported and advocated for other political parties, but whose moral sense rejected electoral theft in favor of truth, transparency, and trust. I commend civil society, the private sector, our young people, and the media for standing up for democracy. I acknowledge with thanks the important part played by members of our diaspora who made their voices heard to spread awareness of what was happening in Guyana. I honor the important role played by the disciplined services and by the judiciary in upholding the rule of law. I thank CARICOM, the Organization of American States, the Commonwealth, and international community as a whole for their steadfast support and for helping us to regain our rightful place in the global family of democratic nations. On our collective behalf, I recall with gratitude the support of Canada, the United States of America, the United Kingdom, and the European Union particularly. These were outstanding individuals who fearlessly raised their voices both here, at home, and in the regional, hemispheric, and international bodies. Those countries and persons honored us, and we in turn must honor them. My sisters and brothers, I hope and pray that never again will our people have to endure the agonizing and fearful ordeal that we suffered for 5 months, from March 2nd to August 2nd, 2020. Never again should the air of freedom that we breathe be poisoned by the noxious fumes of electoral malpractice and fraud. Never again should our integrity as a nation be threatened by the base motives and nefarious intrigues of those who would defy the will of the people and subvert our democracy in their lust for personal power. It is a striking commentary on those who sought to steal the elections, that without any shame, even though they were unmasked as culprits that they are, they continue to masquerade as paragons of virtue and to continue to try to deceive and mislead the people whose hopes they dashed and whose beliefs they destroyed. They remain trapped in the failed politics of race and in the flawed policies of division, offering no new ideas, no novel vision, and no creative pathways for Guyana's future. They have become yesterday's shadows. By contrast, over the past year, I have made clear by words and by deeds my deep and unswerving commitment to one Guyana, one people, one nation, in which all races and all persons are equal, with common rights, common entitlements, and shared benefits. From the first day of my presidency, I've insisted on and demonstrated a firm commitment to good governance and transparency, to upholding fundamental human rights, and to advancing equitable development for all. It is upon that platform of one Guyana for all Guyanese in equity and in opportunity that I will continue to carry out my duties, and the government will continue to, as we fulfill our obligations to all Guyana. On this first anniversary of the government, I renew that pledge with the strength of my belief, the courage of my commitment, and the fidelity of my heart and soul. My fellow Guyanese, we all know that our beloved country is on the cusp of massive socio-economic transformation that can take us to new heights of prosperity. We have only just begun the climb, but all of us are now imbued with the confidence that we will reach those heights if we do it together. Never have our people been so buoyant, so positive, and so sure that economic good fortune has smiled upon us and that a real chance is within our grasp to lift up Guyana and all Guyanese. The past year of the pandemic may have dampened the fire of our enthusiasm, but it has not extinguished the flames of our optimism. It is no understatement to say that the past year has been difficult, and it is no exaggeration to say that it has been deadly so. The COVID-19 pandemic did not spare us. Of course, we're not alone in having to contend with the ravages of this virus. And we are not alone in continuing to battle to contain it, suppress it, and overcome it. We have had to mourn the loss of some 547 lives, with more than 22,619 infections. I wish if it were not so. And I grieve with all who have lost their family and their friends. The coronavirus and its variants continue to threaten all in our society, because we all know that none of us is safe until all of us are safe. That is why your government has spent large sums of money procuring vaccines to inoculate everyone against this dreaded and deadly virus. All of us should be troubled by those who refuse to be vaccinated. The unvaccinated are now as deadly as the virus itself, for they're not only greatly susceptible to infection, they could carry it to others, crippling or killing their own families, their friends, and their co-workers. I appeal once again to all to protect yourselves, shelter your family, safeguard your country. Please get inoculated. Your government has a responsibility to defend the health of all. That is why we have had to introduce measures lasting throughout the month of August, including a curfew, limitation on certain social activities, restrictions on public movements of unvaccinated persons, and shorter opening times for certain businesses. Your government would much prefer an open economy, with unrestricted movement. It will be good for government revenues, it will be good for businesses, but the profit would come at the loss of many more lives and the health of the nation. Our hospitals would not be able to cope, nor would we be able to bury the dead if the coronavirus were allowed to infect the unvaccinated and spread throughout the country. We are in a war with an unseen enemy. We have no idea when and where that enemy will turn up with lethal force. Consequently, we must fortify ourselves against penetration, deny the enemy victims, and build up our strength through vaccinations to repel the foe. We can defeat this enemy and win this battle, returning to the life we enjoyed. But to do so, all must join the battle. All must join the battle. All must be inoculated. You also know that COVID-19 is not the only formidable enemy we fought over the past years. We have had to deal with the widespread flooding occasioned by heavier than normal rainfall, a clear sign of the disastrous effects of climate change. All of this has threatened the livelihoods of hundreds of thousands of our people and placed an enormous strain on our economy. We did not create these challenges, but we confronted them. We did all this while re-engineering broken systems and introduce new innovative approaches. This is the style and manner of your government, not to wring our hands in lamentation, not to be paralyzed in inaction, but to tackle problems vigorously by finding the best solutions and implementing them swiftly and comprehensively. The good of the nation and the welfare of people are always our first priority. The first year has seen success at the International Court of Justice in its ruling that the court has jurisdiction to entertain Guyana's claim concerning the validity of the 1899 award. It is the first step on our way forward to conforming Guyana's patrimony, and we are proceeding with vigor and confidence to the next stage of the judicial hearing on the merits of our case. My fellow Guyanese, over the past year, despite the challenges, your government has been working to implement a comprehensive plan to transform Guyana into a highly prosperous country for the benefit of all Guyanese in the shortest possible time. You have already witnessed the rollout of aspects of that plan, and it is right that on this first anniversary of the recovery of our people's rights, that I should lay out in some detail the pathways to progress and prosperity that the PEPC government has carved out for the nation. Based on the PEPC manifesto, on which we campaigned for the 2020 elections, and on which we were elected, we have commenced a transformative agenda in building a modern, safe, prosperous, and united Guyana, in which all our people can realize their dreams and aspirations. I wish to spend some time highlighting some key areas that are essential for the future of our country. A rapid expansion of Guyana's physical infrastructure has already been launched, with the aims of improving connectivity with our neighbors and trading partners, thereby expanding the economic space in which we operate, opening up new lands to unleash productive potential, and improving internal connectivity to enhance citizens and commuter convenience. To achieve this, the following key projects are already underway. Construction of the Lethem to Linden Road has commenced, with the Linden to Mabura section already tendered. Expressions of interest have already been received for a new bridge across the Quarantine River in partnership with our Surinamese neighbors. To ensure we develop enough capacity to service the oil and gas sector. The government of Guyana welcomes private sector investment to construct multiple shore-based and deep-water facilities at the mouths of the Demerara and Berbice rivers. Works that would see hundreds of millions of US dollars invested by the private sector have commenced. To expand access to productive lands for agricultural and other productive purposes, while creating opportunities for new investors and developers. Work on major roads have commenced. Number 58, the Kanji Creek Road, is already at the tendering stage, with works expected to commence before the end of the year. The Parika to Goshen Road, the clearing of the alignment and surveying have commenced. Timeri to Bartika Link, connecting Sand Hills to Bakaura, clearing of alignment and surveys have also commenced on this project, as well as a vast array of new and upgraded roads in the intermediate savannas and the hinterland regions. To improve internal connectivity, the following key initiatives are being undertaken. A new bridge across the Demerara River has already been tendered and is expected to open on October 3rd, 2021. The new road from Schooner to Parika, the feasibility study has been completed and we are at this design and finance stage. The new highway from Eccles to Mandela has commenced and is expected to be completed long before the end of the year. Works on the further expansion of this highway from Eccles to Diamond has already commenced, with the designs and costings completed. To complement this, the Ogle to Eccles Highway is expected to be awarded by the end of this quarter, with works commencing before the end of the year. Further, efforts to secure financing for the Ogle to Diamond and from Diamond to Timeri phase of this project has also commenced, with a feasibility study already completed. Pre-construction feasibility studies and efforts to secure financing for the further extension of the 4-lane road on the east coast of Demerara to at least Mahaika has also commenced. Project planning and pre-design analysis for a 4-lane quarantine highway upgrade has commenced. The objective of this project is the construction of an upgraded 4-lane highway from New Amsterdam to Skeldon. The rehabilitation of the Soesdijk-Linden Highway has also commenced. Work on community roads, streets, and residential areas have commenced in all 10 administrative regions. Works on airdromes and airstrips have also commenced, with Latham extended runway already completed, and the works to the CGIA to secure 2 additional air bridges, 30 new shops in the commercial center, and completion of the front side curtain walls, all expected to be completed by the end of the year. Work has already commenced on modernizing our river transport system. We have already commenced upgrading of many stellings, and we expect to secure a new ocean-going ferry in 2021. The contract has already been awarded 10 months ago with a construction period of 18 months. The platform is also being laid for new growth poles in urban centers with a planned sustainable new city. Works on Silica City are at a planning stage, with surveys and land acquisition being pursued. The physical landscape of our country is changing dramatically as a result of renewed private sector confidence in our economy. In addition, the conceptual planning for Wales development is in the final stage of completion. Investment have already commenced that will see many new internationally branded hotels and other modern facilities synonymous with a vibrant and multi-dimensional economy are already underway. The energy sector is critical. Recognizing the importance of energy sufficiency, reliability, affordability, and sustainability, your government has commenced investment in the energy sector, aiming for a new generation capacity of at least 500 megawatt in the immediate term, with the option to expand this further in the longer term. Major initiatives in this sector will include the Gas to Shore project, terminating at the Wales Development Authority, which will see 250 megawatts of new power. The Miles Falls hydropower project, which will deliver another 160 megawatt of new power. Solar generating capacity will also be installed to deliver at least 30 megawatts of power. Within individual remote communities and clusters of communities, standalone renewable solutions will also be explored, including hydropower and solar power plants, as well as standalone solar panels. Work in all of these areas have commenced and are at various stages of implementation. The final outcome will see energy costs slashed by at least 50% before the end of 2024. Addressing externalities and building resilience is key to success. Since your government has had to grapple with the COVID-19 and May-June 2021 floods, we plan to ensure that our country is safely navigated through the prevailing external shocks and that our resilience to further shocks is reinforced. The COVID-19 Action Plan will continue to be implemented, including by ensuring the rollout of vaccines to the adult population, while vaccines will also soon be made available to children between the ages of 12 and 18, starting with the older children first. Major program of flood response measures is already being rolled out. This aims at getting both household and producers, such as our farmers, back on their feet in the shortest possible time. The assistance aims at ensuring that they're able to replant their crops and restore their livelihood as a matter of the highest urgency. Work will continue on reinforcing our sea and coastal defenses, including the construction of 3 new major outfalls, similar to the Hope Canal, 1 each in Region 3, 5, and 6. Planning will commence soon on a massive project to relieve South Georgetown from flooding, with the construction of a new drainage system and other infrastructure to facilitate this, whilst at the same time, other areas of the city will also benefit from significant investment to mitigate against flooding and enhance infrastructure. We believe strongly that the future of Guyana and that of the world depends on sustainable development. That is why we have commenced work on an expanded low-carbon development strategy. This strategy is already being developed. It will focus on ensuring that our vast standing forest resource is adequately remunerated for the global climate service it is providing, as well as ensuring that the vast potential of the blue economy is harnessed for national development. Additionally, our productive sector will be widely diversified to ensure resilience to economic shocks. This will see a strong non-oil mining sector, including large and medium-scale gold production, bauxite, manganese, and diamonds, as well as possibilities for expansion into copper and rare earths. The rapid structural change that the Guyanese economy will be undergoing in the immediate years ahead will have important implications for our pool of human resources. In our new oil and non-oil economy, new skills will be required and vast improvements in productivity needed. In order to address these needs, as well as to ensure that every single Guyanese person of employable age is adequately equipped to obtain gainful employment, a drastic transformation in our human resources will be imperative. This will be achieved through our 20,000 online scholarship program, which is commenced with the first batch of 6,000 Guyanese to be awarded before the end of this month. Establishment of a world-class oil and gas institute to serve as a center of excellence for training of personnel for the oil and gas sector in Guyana, regionally and worldwide. Discussions are in the final stages to realize this. Establishing centers of excellence at the University of Guyana in particular fields of study in which Guyana has a natural competitive advantage, such as tropical agriculture, climate change, and environmental studies. Facilitating the rapid training of at least 3,000 Guyanese to work in the rapidly expanding tourism sector. Strengthening technical and vocational education delivered through all of the technical institutes and industrial training centers, and promoting on-the-job training through apprenticeship aimed at providing trainees with practical experience. As a country, we must develop world-class healthcare. In much the same manner your government strives to achieve world-class healthcare, both for delivery to our own citizens as well as a service to be offered to international clients on a commercial basis. In this regard, ongoing efforts will see strategic partnerships with the private sector to develop specialty hospitals, specialized care, and to attract major international providers to develop world-class medical facilities in Guyana. Develop a new maternity and pediatric hospital with strategic partners. Resuscitate the specialist ophthalmology hospital in Port Moran. Upgrade the GPHC and all regional hospitals and health centers, as well as hinterland clinics and health huts. It is important, whilst we pursue all of this, that we ensure we improve the social welfare of our people. Throughout the rapid transformation that the country will witness, it will be important to ensure that no one is left behind, that the social welfare continues to be improved. A number of initiatives have already been implemented, and others will continue to be implemented. These include improving the provision of support to the elderly. In this regard, the old age pension has already been increased since our return to government, while the water subsidy provided to the elderly has also been restored. Implementing special programs for persons living with disabilities, with particular emphasis on training to ensure that these persons are able to engage in meaningful and gainful activity. We commenced work on ensuring universal primary and secondary education, as well as early childhood education, and continuing work to raise the quality of education provided to the children at all levels. We've continued to emphasize on issues related to gender equality, with special emphasis on promoting full female participation in the classroom and the workplace, including by ensuring availability of training places where needed. Community development with economic growth and improved prosperity is critical. There will be a greater need for attention to be paid to community development, particularly in the most vulnerable communities. For this reason, we'll promote the growth and development of strong communities. Examples of initiatives which will be implemented in this regard include strengthening the Amerindian village economy in all villages. We have already acquired equipment, tractors, and implements for distribution to these communities. promoting social spaces and social and cultural activities in all communities with a view to promoting greater cross-cultural awareness and appreciation. Promoting more event-based observances in a national calendar, thereby also promoting greater cross-cultural empathy. Developing a natural, cultural, and creative industries policy to guide the development of the sector and reinstituting the advisory boards for the National Gallery of Arts and the National Archives. Youth and sport is also critical. An essential pillar of our strategy will be to ensure that young people are able to enjoy a well-rounded life in Guyana, including through access to world-class sporting facilities. In this regard, the existing sports infrastructure will be overhauled to include establishment of 3 new multi-purpose centers to accommodate a wide range of sporting facilities and events. Upgrading all public sports facilities, including the sports grounds in rural and hinterland areas. Working closely with the Sports Federation to strengthen sports administration in Guyana. Improving competitiveness is also critical in moving our country forward. Your government will ensure that Guyana's competitiveness as a destination for investment, as well as a producer of goods and services in the global marketplace, is strengthened. To ensure this, many new initiatives have already started, which include restoring and maintaining a favorable macroeconomic environment to ensure that potential investors are unaffected by either policy unpredictability or weak macroeconomic fundamentals. Reducing the cost of doing business in Guyana, first and foremost, must be on the top of the agenda. By addressing these challenges in respect of the availability and cost of energy. Providing investment incentives for new investments, retooling, and technological improvements. Partnership with the private sector in strategic sectors. The BPO, call center sector, agro-processing. To achieve this, we have already liberalized the telecommunications sector and create new opportunities for fiber optic cable, reduce costs of bandwidth, reduce costs of data, so that our ICT environment will also become competitive. Reducing the cost of bureaucracy and red tape is also critical. That is why we have commenced work on implementation of a single window approval system where there is predictability, transparency, and accountability. It is important that our legal and institutional architecture to support the development aspiration of a modern Guyana also be transformed. The new modern Guyana we envision will be one that is world-class. Therefore, we need world-class legal and institutional architecture. This will involve overhauling many of our laws and regulations to make them more relevant to the realities of the Guyana of the future. Some of this will be driven by ongoing law reform, with a newly elected constituted Law Reform Commission just appointed. Some will also be driven by sector-specific reviews of the legal frameworks, while others will be of a more cross-cutting nature. For example, the use of electronic transactions and electronic means of settling transactions will unavoidably become a reality in tomorrow's Guyana. So your government will ensure the relevant legal frameworks are in place. Our institutions will also be strengthened, including for the purpose of ensuring accountability and transparency, stewardship of our national patrimony. For example, in the case of our Sovereign Wealth Fund, the Natural Resource Fund, which is slated for reform, will ensure a modern legal framework is in place to ensure openness and transparency. All of these developments can only take place in a secure environment. And rest assured, no efforts will be spared in creating a stable and secure Guyana. To this end, we have already commenced a program that will see the modernization of the sector, improvement of the welfare and working conditions of those in the sector, and international strengthening to aid transparency, efficiency, and accountability have begun. Also, work has commenced on the building of 3 new prison blocks that will house 900 prisoners in Lusiknan. The acquisition of vehicles and crime-fighting equipment have also been accomplished. Whilst we have laid the foundation for the transformative agenda, we have also transferred billions of dollars directly to the people of Guyana. Examples of a few initiatives are recognizing the devastating impact of COVID-19 on families. We introduced a COVID-19 cash grant, which by the end of the second phase will put more than $8 billion into the hands of families across the country. We restored and increased the annual cash grant for school children. This ongoing exercise will place in excess of $3.3 billion into the hands of the parents of these children. We have commenced the phased increase of old age pension by injecting an additional $4 billion annually in disposable income for senior citizens. We have increased public assistance from $9,000 to $12,000 monthly, providing an additional $500 million in income support to beneficiaries. We reduced land rentals for farmers, releasing $1.4 billion annually back to farmers' cash flow. We reintroduced the year-end bonus for members of the disciplined forces, paying out more than $500 million to our men and women in uniform. We launched a special one-off grant to frontline healthcare workers to the tune of $3 billion. We removed the punitive and draconian APNU AFC taxes placed on the people of Guyana, including VAT on electricity, water, education, medical supplies, basic household necessities, data for residential individual use, basic construction material, and heavy equipment for industry. We took steps to make home ownership more affordable, restoring the $30 million ceiling on mortgage interest relief and increasing the ceiling on low-income housing from $8 million to $12 million. We eliminated income tax on education and healthcare. We allocated $120 million for programs supporting the community of persons living with disabilities, and a further $50 million to organizations working with victims of domestic violence. Put together, these measures injected well over $50 billion into the economy, improving household disposable income, as well as injecting liquidity into the economy. Responding to the devastating floods affecting all our regions, we have injected through direct cash transfers to household and farmers more than $7.5 billion. We have kick-started our housing program. We have already invested more than $14 billion, allocated more than 6,500 house lots, processed almost 2,000 titles and transports, commenced construction of almost 1,000 low, moderate, and young professional homes. And we are in the process of designing and implementing infrastructure works to see the allocation of an additional 10,000 in the coming year. Against all odds, we have reinvested in sugar and reopened the industry, returned jobs, and brought back vibrancy to communities. In addition, we have also restored the almost 2,000 Amerindian job loss stolen by the APNU-AFC government, while at the same time we're aggressively pursuing various initiatives to restore Linden and the bauxite sector that also collapsed under the APNU-AFC government. Hundreds of millions have been spent to keep children in a learning environment as a result of COVID-19. Businesses that were sent into bankruptcy or that were on the verge of bankruptcy by the APNU-AFC government are once again re-emerging as confidence has returned. The wasteful spending and extravagance by the APNU-AFC government has been slashed from public expenditure, creating greater space for those resources to be transferred to the people of Guyana. Some may believe that this is a report of a government 5 years in office. However, I humbly remind every Guyanese that these accomplishments are just in our first year in office, and the foundation has been laid for a rapid takeoff. With a positive mindset and a determined spirit, we assure all Guyanese that together our future will be better. My fellow Guyanese, a wise person once said that a vision without a plan is nothing but a mirage. Clearly, the plan that I've outlined to you is both visionary and strategic. In addition, given Guyana's growing geo-economic and geopolitical importance as an emerging major player in the energy sector, in the Caribbean and in the Americas, your government will continue to work towards maintaining a diversified portfolio of international relations. With our abundant natural resources, we can anchor the energy security and prosperity of our Caribbean community. With our vast agricultural capacity, we can realize the long-standing promise of being the breadbasket for the Caribbean. And given our geostrategic location, we can turn our gaze south to be a bridge between the Caribbean and Latin America. In all this, we'll continue to tap into the huge reservoir of skills and other resources in our dynamic diaspora, and work with our regional and international partners and investors to pursue the objectives of the plan. Moreover, we'll do so never losing sight of the paramount imperative of maintaining our sovereignty and securing our territorial integrity. And we commit to guaranteeing the security of all our people in all its dimensions, including physical, socioeconomic, health, and environmental security. My fellow Guyanese, 1 year ago, in my inaugural address to the nation, I promised to be the president for all the people of Guyana. I pledged my government to pursue certain strategic lines. Those pledges remain firm. Their fulfillment is my personal ambition for all my Guyanese brethren as your president. With this plan, your government will strive tirelessly for the transformation of our country, the creation of a knowledge-based economy, and accelerated sustainable and equitable development for all. No Guyanese will be left out. None will be overlooked, and none will be abandoned. I look to the people of our one Guyana particularly to put their energies into participating in implementing this plan, in which they have a stake, in which they can have opportunities for their personal growth and development that no other generation had. On this anniversary of the recovery of our nation from the snatch of those who sought to steal our rights, subvert our democracy, and blight our future. I commit to leading the work that will consolidate our democracy, build our country, and secure the future for this generation and generations to come. God bless you, and God bless our beloved Guyana. I thank you, and I'll look forward for the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President, for providing a comprehensive account of your government's administration for its first year in office. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, good morning and welcome to this press conference. Before we go into our questions, and I allow the first question, I would like to encourage you to utilize the raise hand emoji to indicate that you have a question. And remember to keep your microphones muted until you have been identified to ask your question. The President will now take your questions. Ladies and gentlemen, I now welcome the first question. We have the first question from Nazima. Nazima, good morning. Go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. President. Thank you, sir. Good morning, Mr. President. Sir, could you say what is the update? Can you hear me?
Yes, dear.
Sir, could you say what is the update on that commission of inquiry that you had promised into the elections and what has happened? And sir, could you tell me what exactly would be the features of this reform of the National Resource Fund?
Sorry, can you repeat the last part of your question, Nazima? Features of?
Could you say what the features would be? You spoke about reform of the National Resource Fund. Could you say what new features you're looking at?
Thank you. Would you like me to take another question? All right, I believe the second person is Delon. Delon, please go ahead and ask your question. Delon, and where are you from?
Hi, good morning. I am from the Caribbean News, media house based in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yes, Delon, please go ahead.
My question to you, Mr. President.
Delon, we're not hearing you.
My first question to you would be that your speech focused on protecting Guyana's democracy and local government election. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Delon, please go ahead. I can hear you.
Okay. Your speech focused on protecting Guyana's democracy and local government elections are due this year. Could you give a commitment or a roadmap of how this election will take place?
Thank you. Is that it? Thank you. The next person, I believe it's News Talk Radio.
No, I have another question.
All right.
Go ahead with the other question.
Go ahead with the other question, Delon. Delon, I think we have lost connection.
Yeah.
I cannot hear you.
I'm sorry, there's a bit of delay. Also in your speech, you focused on the economy and mentioned climate change.
Oh,
Could you give basically a roadmap as how Guyana would reap the rewards of the oil and gas sector while protecting the environment?
thank you, Delon. Would you like me to take another person or you want to answer these?
Next question.
We'll take our next question. I believe it's Svetlana. Svetlana, please go ahead.
Move to
We,
another
s-
person.
okay, we seem to be experiencing some delays. Jarrell? Jarrell, we can take your question now. There is a delay. Go ahead, Jarrell, if you can hear me.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Jarrell.
Where is he from?
Can you
Where
hear
are you
me?
from? Jarrell, we can hear you. Please tell us where you're from.
Hello?
Okay, we'll move to the next
Can you hear
person.
me?
Yes, we are hearing you. Can you go ahead with your question, please?
Hi, yes. So I want. Yeah, there was a delay. Jar Brian from the Guyana Times. So I wanted to ask, while police statistics indicate that serious crime is down, the level of crime has still been a concern over the past year, and you touched on it briefly in your speech, but could you elaborate more on what your administration is doing or will be doing to address crime? And there has also been some concern about the regional support team. Can you address this?
Thank you, Jarrell.
You can take one more and then,
Okay, we'll take
and then
one more question before the president responds. At this time, we'll take Peter Christopher. Could you please ask your question, but before tell us where you were from.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. This is Peter Christopher from Guardian Media in Trinidad. My question is simple with regard, as you know, Guyana has emerged as a energy sector power in a few years, recent years, of course. We just would like to get an update with regard to relations with Trinidad and Tobago with regard to how the energy sectors have collaborated and what is the status of the relationship between Guyana and Trinidad and Tobago at this time.
Thank you, Mr. President.
thank you very much, very kindly, everyone, for your questions. I wish now to address these questions. Nazima asked the question in relation to the Commission of Inquiry and reform of the National Resource Fund. In relation to the Commission of Inquiry, as you're aware, Nazima, there are many moving parts in relation to what took place in the last elections. There are many court cases that are ongoing. There are deliberations at the level of the Guyana Elections Commission in relation to specific staff who were identified for various practices not consistent with transparency and free and fair elections. Notwithstanding this, our commitment of having a commission of inquiry into the events of the last election still stands. For a matter of fact, we have been engaging various stakeholders in finding suitable names that can be part of such a commission so that we can be able to identify not only those individuals who placed us in the position we were in, but to identify possible weaknesses that can form part of the plan to strengthen our electoral system so that never again can we experience such a barefaced attempt at facilitating an attempt to steal in elections. The National Resource Fund and the Sovereign Wealth Fund are critical funds that would safeguard resources for future generation of Guyanese. However, as you're aware, there are immediate needs also that has to be financed. We committed during the campaign that there will be no secrecy in revenues received by the country from our natural resources, especially oil and gas, and we have stuck to that commitment. For a matter of fact, every receipt is the public is notified and is gazetted. We are moving a step further in creating a balance sheet that persons can examine online and be kept abreast with revenues and expenditure. We have also made it very clear that any expenditure must be approved by the National Assembly. Any project to be financed from these funds must be approved by the National Assembly. We are also moving apace with setting of the legislative framework to govern these funds. And I'm aware, whilst we would have liked to have this before the recess, I'm aware that there are still technical suggestions being transmitted to the Attorney General so that we can finalize the legislation to take to the National Assembly. I'm confident that those legislations will be laid in the National Assembly before the end of the year. Delon, from a news agency in Trinidad, you asked the question about local government elections. Let me be very clear that the PPP civic government welcomes local government election. We have made the necessary budgetary provisions in the budget to facilitate local government elections. However, it is the role of the Guyana Elections Commission to be in a position to run these elections. It is the Guyana Elections Commission that must advise on its readiness. And as you're aware, we still have persons, the commission, for a matter of fact, is still dealing with a motion to remove persons who were intricately involved and part of what took place in the last national and regional elections. So be assured, we are ready, we are supportive of local government election with a transparent election machinery, with professionals in place to conduct those elections so that we don't experience what we did just a year ago. You asked the question on the economy and the balance between climate change and pursuit of the oil and gas sector. First of all, let me be very clear with you. Our economy is not based on oil and gas. Our economy will never be based on oil and gas. Oil and gas gives us the impetus to accelerate other aspects of the economy. It gives us the advantage of fast-tracking other initiatives that will make other segments of the Guyanese economy competitive. Agriculture, healthcare services for export earning, educational services for export earning, climate change, our natural resources, revenue from our natural resources, building a world-class healthcare system for the citizens of our country, building a tourism sector and a services sector that is second to none, creating a modernized manufacturing and industrial zone that would open up opportunities for agro-processing, fabricating and machining, research and development. We're even looking at draft legislation and having consultation on stem cell, on the hemp industry. So the plan is a proactive, progressive plan that does not hinges its success only on oil and gas. You will also recall that whilst oil and gas is a newfound natural resource, we have always had standing rainforests as a massive natural resource potential of the country. We led the way in the low carbon development strategy, earning revenues in carbon credit. We were one of the first countries to sign on a new MOU to market our carbon credit. And we are also carbon neutral. So we have already, we have not completed, we are already in the process of designing that expanded LCDS that would demonstrate to the world that in pursuit of the oil and gas sector, we will still be in a position to be a leader in the world on this environmental side. So that balance is intricately being developed in the strategic framework that will take our country forward. Gerald from Guyana Times, you raise the issue of, well, you contextualize your question in the frame that the authorities are saying major crime is on the decline, but that you are still seeing increase in crime. So let me explain what is taking place. As president, one crime is too much for us. Let me be very clear. As president, one crime is too much for us. And we don't manage by statistics alone. One crime is too much. But you must agree that in today's world, there is greater reporting of events. Social media has made events whether small, big, or large, instantaneous. So that increased reporting can also give an increased sense of awareness, which is good. Which is good. So that is why you sometimes believe that this increase is not related to what the authorities are saying in the Guyana Police Force. And I appreciate the level of awareness, because it is the greater awareness that will help us and push policies to mitigate against these issues. But as you're aware, we have done a number of things in terms of crime fighting. We have invested in 50 new vehicles fully outfitted for the Guyana Police Force. When we came into government, more than 80%, listen to this, more than 80% of the transportation asset of the police force was unserviceable, out of operation. That was what we met. That is what we had to fix. And we're not only fixing that, we are bringing new assets into the equation. Important to this is rebuilding the professionalism, rebuilding the confidence in officers within the Guyana Police Force to act professionally, rebuilding the institutions, creating an environment in which they feel comfortable to operate. So on the welfare side, we are also working on making their lives comfortable. We have restored the community policing arm for crime fighting. We are building and putting resources into intelligence gathering as a proactive approach in crime fighting. And like all the political parties promised, I heard you saying that there is some amount of unease with the regional support team. But let me be clear. Like all the political parties promise, regionalization of the crime fighting is important. And the nature of crime itself is changing. And as the country grows and becomes richer and more sophisticated, the type of crimes also will become more sophisticated. That is why we have these regional integrated crime fighting units that are fused together with officers from varied agencies with different skill sets, so that you can have a combined approach of intelligence sharing, crime fighting, and rapid response in any situation. Now, who would not want this? The only persons who will reject this are persons who want to facilitate these crimes. The only person who will reject this, who would reject a stronger, more integrated approach to crime fighting, are persons who find some amount of romance with crime. So, these units are a critical part of the regionalization process that all of us spoke about during the campaign and even when they were in government. Peter Christopher from the Guardian Media, I thank you also, and I want to thank all of you for your very good questions. In relation to Guyana becoming an energy sector powerhouse, my dear friend, that is not the title I would like for Guyana. Guyana is not aiming to become any powerhouse. We are not aiming to demonstrate or flex any muscle or power. Our only aim is to enhance the prospect of all the people of this region. So whatever resources Guyana gets from this oil and gas sector and all other sector, I assure you, will resound not only to the benefit of Guyanese, but all the people of CARICOM. We are one people in CARICOM. There is no distinction in my eyes between our borders. There is no distinction in my eyes between the threat COVID placed on all of us, individually and collectively. And I would never try or attempt to make a distinction, because that brings nothing or add nothing to the equation. Rather than adding and creating the right environment, it divides us. And that would never be my style. I am first and foremost a citizen of Guyana and a citizen of CARICOM, and proud citizen of CARICOM, of which both Guyana and Trinidad and Tobago are part of. So, the prospects and opportunities in our energy sector, in our agricultural sector, in our manufacturing sector, in our industrial sector, in our hospitality sector, in our environmental sector, are also the prospect and opportunities for every investor in CARICOM. We are open for investment. For a matter of fact, there are a lot of investors from Trinidad and Tobago. A lot of your private sector members who are here, who have already invested, who are exploring, and they've all been welcome. They've all been welcome. That is our style in Guyana. But they're not only welcome, they will not only be welcome in the energy sector. There are massive opportunities in the other sectors. So, the future of Guyana is indeed bright. But that future will be shared with CARICOM. Our relationship with Trinidad and Tobago. Our relationship with Trinidad and Tobago has not changed. Trinidad and Tobago and Guyana has always shared a special relationship. We have always supported each other in good times and in bad times. We had excellent relationship. And nothing in my government policy will change that. So I can speak definitively on Guyana. But I want to assure you also that Guyana has a development pathway that we have defined. We have policies that we have pursued in relation to COVID. And those policies are to be respected. Because what we sought to do in Guyana, I can speak for Guyana, was to find a balanced approach. Because COVID is not only about the health of the people, it is also about the health of the economy. We all have this difficulty and difficult decisions to make. And we respect the decisions everyone makes. And we know and we hope everyone respects the decision we make too. We see no distinction in the vaccination program. Whether it's Sputnik, Sinopharm, Pfizer, Moderna, there is no distinction for us and in our eyes in the vaccination program. Because we fought for Pfizer, we fought for Moderna, we fought for Johnson & Johnson, and we could not get it. But we were able to get Sputnik. And we invested in it because the lives of the people mattered. And I don't think we should deny persons who took these vaccines the freedom to move within the region. I don't think so. So that is what I will want to say this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. We will be sending you the text of the President's address immediately following the press conference. The next few persons will be allowed now to ask your questions. First, the representative from News Talk Radio, then we'll have Marcel, and then Svetlana. So the representative of News Talk Radio, please go ahead and present your question.
Stock Radio Damarawe. Sir, could you say just be confirmed in your appointments? I know that somewhat this is linked to consultations with the opposition leader, but we did see consultations being held for another appointment. So it's in that context that I'm asking the question about the confirmation for the Chancellor and the Chief Justice. And secondly, sir, could you say when will the revised production sharing agreement be available? When will that process be concluded? What will be the new features of that new production sharing agreement? And when will the Petroleum Commission be established? And what's really stopping it from being established at this stage?
Thank you, Dennis. Marcel will take your question in a minute.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Marcel will take your question now.
Can I go ahead?
Yes, please. Go ahead, Marcelo. Marcel, I think there's a delay.
Can you hear me? I'm sorry.
I can hear
My
you
mic
now.
was on muted. Muted, sorry.
Go ahead.
Marcel Thomas from the Starbrook News. Mr. President, follow up on the Regional Joint Support Team. Could you say what assurances you would give that this would not be a parallel police force, and who would exactly head this?
Marcella, unfortunately, we are not able to hear the latter part of your question. All right, so I'll move now to Svetlana. And Marcel, perhaps you can send your question in the chat so we can have it. Svetlana, you may now take the floor.
Hi, good day. Could I go ahead with my
I'm
question?
Svetlana Marshall from Village Voice News.
Yes, please. Go ahead. Svetlana, you may ask your question.
they could text it in. Just,
All right, so we seem to be having some technical challenges from your end. So send us your question to Atlanta.
Okay, thank you so much. I was hearing, Mr. President, 1 year in office, could you update us on your push to create 50,000 new jobs as promised? Secondly, we've seen statements of protest by GPSU regarding salary increases for public servants. Can you give us an update on whether the government intends to meet with the union and whether any increase is planned? And just a follow-up to Marcel and Gerald's question on the regional security unit, support unit, could you update us on the establishment of these units? Thank you.
Thank you, Svetlana. Would you like to take one more, sir?
yeah.
Okay. Rihanna? Rihanna, we'll take your question now. Go ahead, Rihanna. Good morning.
So Al, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Please go ahead. I can hear you, Rihanna.
Yes, Mr. President, today your government is celebrating 1 year in office. Would you be able to say what percentage of the PPP's manifesto has been implemented so far? And also, if you could give us an update on the flood relief cash grants and when distributions are likely to start and what process would be used for disbursements of those monies.
Thank you, Rihanna. You can go ahead.
All right.
Okay, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Dennis, consultation with the Chancellor in relation to the Chancellor and Chief Justice. As you're aware, the leader of the opposition has still not issued any statement recognizing the legitimacy of the government. So I don't know who I'm consulting with. Well, I know he's the leader of the opposition, but I don't think he is sure who he is consulting with. So I think he slowly might be coming to realization that his gymnastics and this gimmick that he has been on will soon come to an end. You know, I saw him in an interview yesterday talking about the PPPC has rolled back the gains of the AP and UAFC government. My God. The only thing we have rolled back is the more than 30 taxes that cost the people tens of billions of dollars. You know what we did? We rolled it back. We removed it. We removed that burden from the lives of those people. So yes, we rolled that back. What we rolled back was to give back the children the grant they took away from them. What we rolled back was to restore those jobs for the Amerindians that they stole. What we rolled back was their undemocratic push to steal in elections. So there was a lot of rolling back. He's right. But I think he is slowly coming to the realization that the showboat he was on is not the reality of the environment and the politics of our country. And let me address one more thing he said. He insulted communities, saying that, or implying that we are making these communities receptive of handouts and not building their economic independence. I don't know how he can go back to those communities that accepted the cash grants that accepted the COVID grants. He don't understand the functioning of an economy, the concept of wealth transfer. He don't understand the concept of bridging inequality gap. He don't understand the concept of putting back more disposable income in the pockets of people. Now I understand why they were taking away from the people in taxes. Because maybe in his head, taking away from the people in taxes was giving them independence. But you know what is the problem? When they were lavishly giving to a selected few in their government, that was not handout. When policies favors the better off in the society, that is not referred to as handout. But from the time you give the poor, from the time you support the poorer sections of the society, from the time you support vulnerable communities, you call it handout? That is not handout. Those are policies and programs to secure welfare. It is part of social transformation. It is part of social transfer. It is an integral part of an economic system of governance. You do not dare insult those people about handouts. They can be assured that this government will continue to support their livelihood. When you give 20,000 scholarships to the children of those people, that's not handouts. That is an investment to transform their lives. When you give them $25,000 cash grant because of COVID, that is not a handout. That determines whether they put food on the table. When you give them money for a uniform grant and transportation grant to go to school, that is not a handout. That determines whether that child can have an education or will have an education. When leaders cannot understand these basic fundamentals of socio-economic development, we will have difficulty. Sorry about that. I couldn't help it. Let me return to your question, Dennis. In terms of the Petroleum Commission, you're right. I would have liked to complete this task before Parliament would have gone into recess. But as you're aware, Dennis, we are in the final stages of having the local content legislation laid in Parliament, and the local content policy itself, which is important. And hopefully, not hopefully, by the end of this year, our plan is to have the Petroleum Commission Petroleum Commission established. You know our position in terms of the production sharing agreement and the Exxon contract. Throughout the campaign, we said that we have to look at areas that would bring greater accountability, greater transparency in this contract. We have to look at areas that can open up greater benefit for the people of Guyana, that can open up greater benefit for our country. We said that future production sharing agreements definitely will be renegotiated and made public. Every single thing we have done in this sector so far has been made public. Every outcome of discussion, every outcome of negotiation, every agreement, whether it's on the environmental side, whether it's on the pipeline, whether it is on the agreements themselves, they have all been made public. That is our commitment, to be very open in the management of this sector. Marcel, the Regional Joint Support Team cannot and will never be parallel to the Guyana Police Force. The police force is actively involved in this regional support team. What is the difference is that now you have a broadened interagency unit that would assist in crime fighting. It is not parallel, it is not separate. It is part of. It is part of. So the agency has officers from intelligence agencies, from drug enforcement, from the police, from the joint services. It's an integrated approach. It brings varied skill sets together. The unit is highly trained and will be highly trained to respond to various security challenges. We have to build our capacity, and that is what is being done here. Svetlana, in relation to the push to create new jobs, let me just give you a few examples. We have turned the sod for about 3 hotels. We are finalizing maybe another 4. I know Dr. Peter Ramsroop is working aggressively on this. The construction phase in that industry itself has already generated hundreds of jobs. By the time we get to the end of the year, that will go to thousands. The housing program itself has already engaged thousands of Guyanese. The sugar industry, new investments coming in. Let me give you the example. A survey recently showed that daily we had 1,100 trucks moving from Soesdijk along the East Bank with sand. That is close to 24,000 tons of sand every day. Each of those trucks would have, at a minimum, a laborer and a driver. You then have mechanics that have to support those trucks. And this is just one sector. When we came into government, more than 70% of the mining sector was down and out. Today, more than 70% of the mining sector is back in operation. All of this is creating jobs for people. The vibrancy in the private sector, the investment that the private sector is making, the new shore-based facilities will open up opportunities for thousands of people. The new hotels, at a minimum, with the plans that we are seeing, we'll need about 3,000 persons by the time you get up to the end of 2023 permanently to service the needs of those hotels. So, the push to create jobs has not only commenced, but is gaining rapid momentum. And we are going to add to this. The new highways that we're going to build the new canals. And if you want to understand what is taking place and how the economy is moving, try to call MACORP. Try to call these agencies that sell heavy equipment like excavators. You'll be shocked to know that you have to wait 6 and 7 months. And all of this is happening in the context of a global economy that is suffering from rapid increases, and we are being affected because we import the inflation. Rapid increase in logistic costs, transportation costs, manufacturing facilities were out of operation. They're now coming back on stream, and that too is faced with great difficulty because of the Delta strain that has once again sent back industries shutting their doors. It is not an easy environment, yet we have made so many advances. And this is not about the PEP Civic, this is about us as a people understanding and appreciating the advances that we have made and working together to even move faster ahead with the development of our country. The update on the establishment of you also asked about the update on the establishment of these units. The units, as you know, as you're aware, are presently being outfitted. They are being, we have budgeted resources to bring them into operation. So the operation of the unit, I know, for example, in Region 4, one of the units has already been part of the support mechanism with the Guyana Police Force. So the operationalizing of the unit will come sequentially as we're in the process now of outfitting and equipping those units. Rihanna, on the question of percentage of the PPC manifesto, I haven't worked it out to percentage, but when you look at our accomplishment, what I can tell you is that we will not only exceed the expectation of the manifesto, but that many new initiatives that would benefit the people of our country will also be accomplished. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll now take questions from Svetlana.
Hi, Mr. President. I asked a question about GPSU meeting.
Oh, sorry. My apologies. My apologies, Svetlana. In relation to the question on GPSU, let me say salary increases for public servants. Let me say, Svetlana, that my vision and the vision of the government is not only about salaries. And let me assure you, first of all, though, before I continue, that the public servants will receive salary increases before the end of the year. And it will be retroactive. So let me be clear on that. They will receive salary increases and it will be retroactive. But I am not only looking at salary increases. We are looking at the mechanism that would allow every public servant to own their own home. They also benefit from the COVID, the help with the COVID cash grant. But we want to empower public servants so that their children too can benefit from the scholarship program, many of whom are already benefiting. The public servants themselves are benefiting. And we are happy about this. So let us not limit the discourse only to the tax waivers and tax break and tax reversals. of VAT. All of us benefits, including the public servants. So it's a holistic approach to the improvement of life and livelihood. It is not a narrow window of only salaries. It is that holistic approach that is necessary. And in terms of the GPSU threatening strike action because of salary increases, I've already made it clear. There will be salary increases before the end of the year that will be retroactive. But we have to be careful. We have to be careful. And my appeal to public servants, to teachers, is a very simple appeal. Trust the government. By the end of these 5 years, you will all be better off. Do not be played politically. I see some ridiculous remarks sometimes from the head of the teachers' union. And I will not repeat them. I will not even engage in a discussion surrounding them. But I will engage in a discussion directly with the public servants and teachers. I will engage with you in a discussion so you understand where our country is heading. You will understand the opportunities of the future. And of course, you will be integrated in this new Guyana, filled with opportunities and improvement in your personal and family welfare. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll take questions now from the following 4 persons. Gordon Mosley, Kiana Wilberg, O.C. Rogers.
Oh, sorry. Rihanna, your question on the relief to the farmers and when it will be rolled out. We announced this Saturday. Saturday, I made this announcement. The machinery is already in place. As you're aware, there was a very comprehensive field exercise across the country that recorded those who were affected. So the database is there with the CDC, the Ministry of Agriculture, other sectors, the authorities on the ground, and that help will be rolled out in the coming week and beyond.
Thank you, Mr. President. So, Gordon Mosley, Kiana Wilberg, O.C. Rogers, and Lekram, you will present your questions now in that order. Go ahead, Gordon.
Good day, Mr. President. Good day to you all. Mr. President, first of all, let me just do a quick follow-up on Mr. Chabrol's question with regards to the appointment of the Chancellor and the Chief Justice. Are you now hinging the discussions or the consultations for those 2 appointments based solely on the opposition leader needing to recognize your government formally? Because the Constitution is clear, there's a president, there's an opposition, and they should consult. And how do you defend that when there have been consultations between the government and the opposition just recently on the appointment of a local government commission? So that's a follow-up to Dennis's question. And sir, as of yesterday, Guyana has recorded 546 COVID-19 related deaths, over 22,000 cases. The majority of those deaths, 306 of them, and the majority of those cases, 12,000 of them, taking place in the past 4 months alone. How would you assess your government's response to COVID-19 from a containment angle and reducing the spread? And my other question, sir, can you confirm that the government intends to put a vaccination requirement in place for all foreign persons coming to Guyana, all foreign travelers coming to Guyana? And my final question, is there a plan by the government to make it mandatory for teachers and eventually students to be vaccinated in preparation for the reopening of schools?
Thank you, Gordon. Kiana? Kiana will now take the question. One moment, actually. One moment.
Hello, good morning. Kiana Wilberg here from Kaitra News. Mr. President, just three questions, all related to the oil and gas sector. Sir, on the election campaign and after you were sworn in, you made a promise to the citizenry that there would be transparency from end to end in the oil sector. In spite of this promise, ExxonMobil's local content reports, whether on a quarterly or annual basis, have yet to be made public. So too are the detailed production reports on the Stabroek block. We've not had anything released regarding the production, how much is used for transportation, etc., on the Stabroek block. Also kept from the public's eye is the report of the audit on ExxonMobil's pre-2015 costs. I believe that's at over $400 million US. And also kept from public scrutiny is the Alison Redford report. In light of all of these details that have been kept from us, can you say, Mr. President, how much longer will Guyanese have to wait for transparency in this regard? Secondly, what we've not heard from the government in terms of the ExxonMobil and its partners, is how the government intends to address the payment of income taxes from its share of profit oil. And finally, sir, can you say how your government intends to handle the costs that are racking up, given the aggressive exploration program in the Stabroek block? And I ask this question particularly as it relates to the fact that Guyana remains without any sort of protection where ring fencing is concerned. So those are my three areas, sir. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Kiana. Would you want me to invite OC now?
Yeah.
OC, Mr. Rogers, we will take your question now, sir.
Hello, Suel. Good morning to you. Good morning, Mr. President. I would want to ask you a question relating to the diaspora. I know that your government has set up within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Department of Diaspora Affairs. I would like you to expound a little bit on the plans that your government has for the diaspora, and basically that's my question. What are the plans for the diaspora, and what are some of the things that you've already put in place as it relates to engaging the diaspora in the nation's development? Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take one more question. Sorry, would you like to take one more question? Yeah. From, is it Lekram? Lekram, you may unmute your mic. Go ahead, please.
Good morning, Mr. President. Lekram from the Guyana Times. In relation to sport, we've seen Guyanese athletes performing with great potential in Tokyo, and that too with limited resources. What is your government doing or plans to do to assist these and future Guyanese athletes to better their craft and develop sport locally so we can compete on these international stages at the same level as our Caribbean and international counterparts?
Thank you, Lekram. Thank you. Yeah. You can respond when you're finished.
Okay, let's Gordon. There is a difference in the way the local government commission is appointed and the Chancellor and Chief Justice. There's a parliamentary process in the case of the commission, and in the case of the Chancellor and Chief Justice, there has to be consultation directly between the President and the Leader of the Opposition. I know definitively who is the Leader of the Opposition, and I know definitively who is the President of Guyana. And I'm sure Harmon definitively knows who also is the Leader of the Opposition and who is the President. So the ball is in his court to do the right thing, and I'm hoping, I'm a very positive person, I'm hoping that very soon he will stop his reckless statements about the government and do what is right in the interests of the people of Guyana. The past 4 months, the containment, well, first of all, let me say this to you. When we came into government, we did not have a COVID facility. We had to invest resources in bringing the Ocean View facility into operation. Let's be clear on that. Let's be very clear on that. We pursued the vaccination. We pursued a strategy for the management of COVID. Now look in a holistic way as to what our position is compared to many others. I'm not going to name any country. I'm not going to name any region. And you have to say, like many healthcare professionals internationally and regionally have said to us, that we have done, in their own word, an excellent job. But for me, nothing can be excellent if one life is lost. Nothing can be excellent if one life is lost. That is why I'm so impatient when it comes to the vaccination program. Because I am aware of the impact persons without vaccine, the impact of COVID on the economy and country if people are not vaccinated. And that is what worries me. So in the context of what is happening around us and the development of this virus and the modeling of the virus, there is a model that every country goes through. We have done the best we could under the circumstances. We have done the best we could under the circumstances. Look at what is happening now in countries that had thought that they are completely ahead of the curve with one variant, Delta. And the longer Delta stays with us, the possibility of new variant emerges, according to the scientists. So this is not an easy battle. And any decision you make in this battle has elements of risk. You just have to measure those elements of risk and make the best possible decision in the holistic interest of the country. Yes, vaccination requirement will be put in place like many other countries for persons arriving in Guyana. For a matter of fact, CARICOM at the last heads of government meeting took a united position on this, that for CARICOM nationals, save and except, well, Trinidad and Tobago did not agree with this component of it, but CARICOM leaders said that any regional national will be allowed into any country within the region regardless of which vaccines they took. So we are part of the region and part of that decision. But globally, this is the direction that the world is going, and this is the direction we are going in also. I think teachers has the greatest responsibility to lead. And I'm hoping that they provide that leadership and that they get vaccinated. We surely cannot expose the children to unvaccinated teachers. And I'm sure the teachers are responsible enough to understand this and understand the importance of vaccination. I've already made it clear that we are pursuing the Pfizer vaccines, and when that comes, it will be made available to children, and once it's available to children, we expect children to take it, beginning with the older children. So that is also part of the plan, to have children taking the vaccines. Guyana, with the greatest of respect to you, I do not believe that we have been hiding anything as it relates to the oil and gas sector. Every piece of information that the government has, every discussions we have had, every change in any agreement has been made public and shared with the public. The various areas you outline, many of them now the government itself is identifying technically competent support staff that would come on stream with us in the new structure that we're designing for the oil and gas sector, to do the analysis in all the areas you have outlined and to present their findings to the population. We have recently advertised for various posts within the unit. It is our hope that very soon we'll be able to put together the structure, put together the team, so that we can further enhance our work in creating a transparent and open system of management and information sharing in the oil and gas sector. So that is what I would say in relation to your questions. In terms of the costs for the extensive exploration that is ongoing and the issue of ring fencing, again, that falls in the category of what I have just explained. These detailed information and the outcome of the discussions will be made public. When we arrive at the final solution, not solution, the final documents, all of those will be made public. I've said earlier, we are working now on a website that will have all the production details, that will have all the revenue details, that will have all the expenditure details. We are presently putting that system and institution in place. O.C. Rogers, we have started the engagement with the diaspora. We have had investment seminars. We have made it very clear that the diaspora forms part of our local content strategy. We have many persons within the diaspora as key investors, not only in the oil and gas sector, but many other sectors, hotels, oil and gas, agriculture, agro-processing, logistics planning. And we're also having the diaspora responding to many of the ads that we're placing here and internationally. The mechanism to engage the diaspora with the council is in its final stage of formulation, and I'm sure the engagement, interaction, and participation of the diaspora moving forward will be a critical link to our development here in Guyana. Lekram, you're very correct. We need to invest more in our athletes in sports, but this is not only a government responsibility. In all countries that do well in sports, the private sector plays a very integral role. So we want to do this in partnership with the private sector, the commissions, the federation, the sporting bodies. And we've already committed to establishing regional centers and a high performance training center for athletes. I'm confident that we have in Guyana athletes that are capable of standing on a medal podium. But we have to make that investment. First of all, we have to invest in talent spotting from a very young age. And when we spot those talent, we have to invest in a program that allows them to pursue academic achievement while their athletic talent or the sporting talent is developed and enhanced. And that is the direction in which we are going. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. We will take our final question now from Michaela Prince of the Department of Public Information. Sir, she would like to know, what are your top priorities for the next 4 years?
If I go through back that, we will have another 1-hour session. But the top priorities for the government are all outlined in our manifesto. I've identified the areas that are important for the transformative agenda of our country. In my opening statement, I have demonstrated how that foundation is laid to achieve that transformative agenda. I've demonstrated the vehicle and the avenue through which those initiatives will be pursued. And I'm willing to sit maybe during the course of this month and have a detailed examination as to this journey also. So let me take this opportunity as before you close off, to thank the Guyanese people for your love and support in this, our first year. I thank those who are constructively critical for your criticisms that only help to build stronger policies. I thank those who would have supported us. And I say to you, your support, your strength, and your motivation is what gives us oxygen in building a unified and stronger Guyana. By no means today, I'm here to tell you we live in a perfect world and we have done everything in a perfect way. By no means, I'm here to say that to you. Wherever there are areas for improvement, as President, I assure you, my government stands ready to listen to those ideas, those insights, and reasoned approaches in building a stronger Guyana. To those who are not supporters of the government, I assure you that this government also would work equally in your interests. To those who use race as a means to accomplish an end, I say to you that you're an enemy of your own country. You're an enemy of your own people. In this government, there is no room for that. I am not going to waste my energy on the negativity that some may want to pursue. But I will use all my energy to embrace the ideas, the suggestions, and the common vision of all of us as Guyanese. We all have the responsibility of leaving a better Guyana for those to come. I can assure you that I take this responsibility very seriously. And every day of my life as your president and the life of this government is dedicated to the achievement of this. Thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, thank you for joining us today, and everyone viewing us via social media and or the various networks. As I said before, I'll be sending you the text of the President's address momentarily. Thank you for joining us again, and have a good day.